What would you do if the person you trusted the most, the one who shared your pain, your hunger, and your dreams, suddenly felt like a stranger in the dead of night? In this story, loyalty turns into fear, friendship twists into something darker, and every shadow hides a chilling secret. Stay with me till the end, because the truth behind this loyal friend is more terrifying than you can imagine. The night was quiet. The air carried a strange stillness, as if even the wind had stopped to listen. Arif walked through the narrow path that led into the old forest. His footsteps echoed faintly against the dry leaves scattered across the ground. The moonlight broke through the branches, creating silver patterns on the earth. Beside him walked his childhood friend, Hamza. Hamza's face was calm, but his eyes carried a shadow that Arif could not understand. The two had promised never to leave each other, no matter what. They had survived hunger together. They had fought bullies together. They had carried each other through storms. But tonight felt different. The silence between them was heavy. A distant howl broke the air. Arif's chest tightened, and he gripped the lantern more firmly. The flame flickered, casting uneven light across Hamza's face. For a brief moment, Arif thought he saw something strange in his friend's expression. A twitch of the lips. A flicker in the eyes. It was not the face of the Hamza he had known. Arif slowed his steps. The forest seemed alive. Every branch creaked. Every shadow shifted. The smell of damp soil filled his nostrils, mixed with something sharper, metallic, almost like blood. He stopped walking. Hamza stopped too, but a little too late, as though his mind had been somewhere else. Arif turned to him. The words stuck in his throat. The lantern flame trembled, throwing long shapes on the ground. Hamza stepped closer. His voice was soft, almost whispering. You still trust me, do you not, Arif? Arif's heart pounded. He wanted to answer. He wanted to say yes. But the forest around him felt like it was closing in. The howl came again, this time nearer, sharper, almost human. Arif's skin prickled with cold. Hamza's hand reached out slowly, fingers stretched toward his shoulder. The air between them felt heavy, charged, as if the forest itself waited to see what Arif would do. The forest stood still. The branches above did not move. Even the night birds were silent. Arif's chest rose and fell with uneven breaths. The hand of his friend hovered near his shoulder, but Arif could feel a strange weight in it. It was not the warm hand he had trusted all his life. It was cold. It was hesitant. It was almost predatory. Hamza, Arif whispered, his voice trembling. The name felt foreign on his tongue. The friend he had once shouted for in joy now sounded like a stranger when spoken aloud. Hamza's eyes gleamed in the lantern light. They did not blink. They did not soften. The fire reflected in them as if those eyes had depths that no human should carry. Do you remember the oath we made? Hamza's tone was calm, but behind it lurked something unsteady. Arif swallowed hard. The forest seemed to lean closer, the trees listening to every word. Yes, Arif said at last, his voice nearly breaking. We promised never to betray each other. We promised to remain loyal, even if the world turned against us. Hamza's lips curled, but it was not a smile. It was a shadow of one. A smile that did not belong to comfort. A smile that belonged to secrets. Then why, Hamza said, his voice sinking lower, why do I feel your doubt tonight? Arif felt his legs weaken. The ground under him seemed softer, as if the earth itself wished to swallow him whole. The metallic scent in the air grew stronger, clawing at his nostrils. He tightened his grip on the lantern. The flame inside quivered, as though it too sensed fear. Arif looked into Hamza's face and searched for the boy he once knew. The boy who had shared stale bread with him when they were starving. The boy who had shielded him when they were attacked by older men. The boy who had stood by him during the darkest winters. But all he saw now was a mask. Something old. Something tired. Something dangerous. The silence grew unbearable. A branch snapped somewhere deep in the forest. Both of them turned their heads. The sound was sharp, deliberate. Not the sound of an animal. It was too precise. Too careful. Arif's breath grew shallow. Who was there? He called out, his voice shaking. No answer. Only the faint rustle of leaves. Hamza did not flinch. Instead, he stepped closer to Arif, the distance between them narrowing. You hear them too, do you not? Hamza whispered. Arif's throat tightened. Hear what? The voices, Hamza replied, his eyes burning with a strange fire. They follow us. They have always followed us. You simply refuse to notice. Arif took a step back. The ground beneath his foot was damp, sinking slightly. Cold water seeped into his shoe. He wanted to run. He wanted to scream. But his loyalty chained him to the moment. This was Hamza, his friend, his brother in all but blood. And yet, Arif felt as if he was standing before a stranger. Hamza tilted his head, the way one might watch an insect crawling on the floor. The expression chilled Arif to the bone. You doubt me, Hamza said again, firmer this time. The words echoed in the stillness. Arif's lips parted, but he had no answer. A sudden gust of wind pushed through the forest, rattling the branches. The lantern flame jumped violently. The shadows around them stretched and danced, taking monstrous shapes. For an instant, Arif thought he saw figures standing between the trees. Tall, motionless, watching. He blinked. They were gone. But the sense of being observed did not leave him. His skin prickled. Every hair on his body stood on end. He forced his voice to return. Hamza, what is happening here? Hamza's chest rose slowly. His face, pale under the moonlight, seemed carved from stone. You will understand soon, he said. Loyalty has a price, Arif. And tonight, you must prove yours. Arif's heart slammed against his ribs. What do you mean? Hamza took another step forward. The metallic scent in the air thickened. It was no longer faint. It was heavy, overwhelming, like fresh iron, like blood spilled too recently to dry. Arif's stomach turned. The lantern's light fell across Hamza's hand. There was something dark on his sleeve. Something that glistened. Something that dripped slowly onto the ground. The soil beneath their feet was wet, not only from rain, but from something far more sinister. Arif's mouth went dry. He wanted to ask, but his voice was locked in his throat. The forest seemed to lean in closer, pressing its silence upon him, demanding him to look. And he looked. The drops on the ground were red. Thick, shiny under the lantern light. Blood. Hamza followed his gaze. Then he smiled. Not the smile of a friend. Not the smile of comfort. It was the smile of a secret revealed too late. The smile of something that had already been decided. Do you still trust me, Arif? Hamza asked, his voice almost gentle, but sharp like a blade under silk. The question cut through the silence of the night. Arif's lips trembled. His hands shook. The lantern rattled. And somewhere, deep in the forest, the howling returned. This time, it was not distant. It was near. It was loud. It was hungry. And it was coming closer. Arif's entire body froze, caught between fear of the forest and fear of the man he had once called his brother. Hamza's shadow stretched long across the ground, swallowing Arif's own. The night itself seemed to hold its breath. And in that suffocating silence, Arif understood one truth. He was no longer standing beside the Hamza he had once known. He was standing beside something else. Something darker. Something that wore the face of his most loyal friend. The howling drew closer. It no longer sounded like an animal. It was layered, broken, as though many voices were trapped inside one cry. Arif's knees trembled. The lantern shook in his grip, the flame bending wildly. Hamza stood unmoving, his eyes fixed on the darkness between the trees. The shadows moved. Figures emerged, slow and silent. Tall, shapeless, their faces hidden by the night. Arif stepped back, his heel pressing into the wet earth. Hamza, what have you done? Hamza did not answer. Instead, he lowered his head, almost as if in respect. The shadows closed in around them, their presence colder than the air itself. Arif's chest tightened. He could barely breathe. The metallic scent of blood grew suffocating. Hamza turned at last, his eyes glimmering under the moonlight. You swore loyalty, he whispered. Tonight, your loyalty will be tested. Arif's hand shook so violently that the lantern slipped. It struck the ground. The flame went out. Darkness consumed them. Arif's world collapsed into black silence, broken only by the sound of heavy breaths around him. And then, a hand touched his shoulder. Warm, firm, the same hand that had once pulled him from rivers, defended him in fights, shared bread and hunger. Trust me one last time, Hamza said softly. Arif's eyes filled with tears he could not see. His voice cracked. I do, Hamza. The shadows closed in. The ground trembled. And the night swallowed them both. Only the echo of their oath remained, carried away by the cold wind through the forest. Loyalty until the end. Dash dash dash.